Welcome back to the ESPN Hoops and Hits podcast. I'm the Scope, joined by the Grub, as always, brother.
How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How you been? Good weekend?
Very good. Well, Eagles won, so that's all that really matters.
You must be happy, mate. And we're going to be chatting a lot about the NFL. We've got a little bit of baseball mixed in there as well. The Ravens got their first win over the Cowboys.
And they look good. King Henry.
Your man, King.
Dictating terms. Love to see it.
Love it. Panthers get their first win, but not with Bryce Young. Andy Dalton. And we've got some stats. Producer Shab's got some stats. I've got a stalemate question for us around that game as well.
What about Dalton just winding back the clock?
The red rifle.
Doesn't it put some pressure?
I love it.
On the whole, everyone inside the walls. I love it.
The Eagles, they improved to 2-1, but they lost Devontae Smith in the third quarter. And I've got to hold it.
Let's get them ready, mate. I'm telling you.
We're going to be going grub or no grub. Devontae Smith hit. We'll get to that. Justin Fields is also 3-0 with the Steelers. Caleb Williams, 1-2 with the Bears.
Yeah, where to now? I never thought the Steelers would be 3-0 with Fields. I'll be honest with you. And then Wilson, where's he go now?
Yeah,
honestly, he was meant to be the starter. Can you put him straight back in after being 3-0?
We'll discuss that. I always thought Justin Fields had potential, and I feel like he's got himself in the right system. Russell Wilson waiting, and Caleb Williams, he is where Justin Fields was. 1-2 and struggling. Also, Grub, we're going to be chatting a little bit of Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani surpasses 50-50 milestone in spectacular fashion with a 3-run homer, and he also stole 2 bases. It's very rare that we see this type of athlete in the Major League Baseball.
Horo, we play cricket in Australia. Is it fair to say he's seeing them like beach balls?
That is fair. And he's stealing the runs for fun as well. It is time to get on Left on Red, and this is where we require people who have been following the show, and we really appreciate everyone who's been following the show. So let's get to it. Let's kick it off. The first one comes from Facebook. Here we go, up the top. Mizzy Miz. This man did more in one game than some teams do in a whole game. Shohei Ohtani becomes the first player in Major League Baseball history to hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases in the same season. One lucky fan was able to get his hands on the home run ball and wisely got out of the stadium. Apparently, he was offered $300,000 for the ball straight away, and he's turned it down.
This is a big talking point, and I know. You told me before the show it's different to the NFL. With the NFL, you got to give the ball back, but with the Major League, it's keep it. Come on, man. What about one day like that? There's a big moment. This is history making.
Yeah.
And you've been offered $300,000. I get it. This is a big opportunity for that person, whoever's got that ball. But come on, give the ball back. Please give the ball back.
Okay, 2 questions. First one, $300,000. You giving it back for $300,000 or you keeping it?
Me?
Yep.
Giving it back.
Giving it back, and are you getting the $300,000?
Okay, you're into all your memorabilia, right? And for your own personal stuff, like your biggest achievement in rugby league, if someone had that, and you're offering them $300,000, like come on.
I don't think it's necessarily going to be Ohtani who wants to get it back anyway. It's more the people who sell the memorabilia that want it. It's the baseball team that want to make money off it as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm keeping it, mate, and I'm not selling it until Ohtani retires.
You're keeping it.
Can we get a grub or no grub for the guy who kept the ball? The first grub or no grub, and we've got a couple coming up for the show as well.
Grub act. I'm going grub act, man. I don't know. I just love it. If that happened to me, and I don't know, it's a bit different in rugby league because if you kick a field goal in a big moment, you're never going to get it back. But it'd be nice. It'd be nice to have that.
What about the Trent Hodkinson ball when you broke the drought? When he kicked it into the stadium, some lucky fan got to keep onto it.
Yeah.
That's a nice little piece of memorabilia for them.
Yeah, so whoever's got that back, give it back.
We're going from Major League Baseball to the NBA, but this one's off court. And this one comes from Facebook, and it comes from Sav Hats, the biggest Woj bomb ever. Adrian Wojnarowski has agreed to become the general manager of men's basketball team St. Bonaventure. So it is a college team. So therefore, no more Woj bumps for the NBA, at least for a season.
Oh, I like it. And this is massive news. We're talking about big baseball players and big NFL players. He is of the news of ESPN. He broke a lot of big stories, and it's a big opportunity for him. I know. I read an article saying he's always been very passionate about being the GM for a college or a basketball team. And I think for me personally, being a part of that school system, having someone like him there to learn how to deal with the media and what comes with it, I think it's great.
And the connections.
Exactly right. All the connections and just all the, if he knows the story's going to come out, how to get on the front foot. I think it's a big thing in sport, mate, and he's broken many, many big articles over the years.
I've got 5 for you. You'll give me your top one out of all these ones. They're all huge. Anthony Davis to the Lakers. He broke that. He broke Paul George to the Clippers, and I got a little bit of Paul George after this. He broke the truth behind the Chris Paul trade, which was basically the owners messaged, coerced with David Stern to make sure that trade was blocked. The beginning of the end for the 2020 season, star Donovan Mitchell tested positive for coronavirus.
Wow.
So the coronavirus breakout, and the NBA suspends the 2020 season due to COVID as well. So some huge ones. I was also watching the Paul George podcast, and Tyrese Halliburton was on there as a guest, and he said he found out he was being traded, not from the team, not from the manager. Woj messaged him directly and told him he was about to be traded to the Indiana Pacers, where he now is there as a star.
And that's quite unbelievable because, when we played, you become matey with a few of, people that you sort of trust, and if there is something that's going to come out, you give them the story. But that's the ones that you just mentioned. That's 5 huge stories. And that one you were saying about Chris Paul, like how they were blocking it, that's massive. Like
that's for him
to give that get that information, one, they must trust him. Or 2, he just must know so many people in the establishment. So he must be good at what he does. And, I take my hat off to him because I think what they've been weighing up is if he could still do it, a bit of ESPN plus, but I don't think so. Like there's no way you could do a bit of both. So good on him, trying something else, and I think it'd be great.
The amount of information that he has to get, you'd imagine he's up at all hours of the night, very rarely sleeping, just like Shefty, just like all of the greats that do it on ESPN. It's time to move on. And this one comes from Facebook, and we're going to college football now. This one's from Tristan Lee. One of the most insane endings I've ever seen. Colorado stuns Baylor in overtime in a miracle finish. Are Colorado legit, or is it just a big show? Because there is so much noise around this college program at the moment.
I don't think so, mate. First things first, Hunter and Sanders, unbelievable. Elite athletes, but the program, there's just so much hype around all them. They can't come up against Alabama or Georgia and be a chance. But for those two guys, even Sanders, in the last 3, in that possession, he got sacked 3 times. 3 times, and then threw that Hail Mary, that's massive belief, to have that in yourself. And you can see that from him. You can see that from Hunter. But, people are getting a bit excited about Colorado. Same thing happened last year, and then they sort of just fell off the cliff.
They definitely have some holes in their roster for sure. I guess the biggest question now coming out, Travis Hunter goes off first week receiving the ball. He plays both sides of the ball. He comes up with a really big stop on the goal line to seal the game in this one. Can he play both in the NFL, or does he play one or the other? And if he does play one or the other, which position are you picking him?
Oh, it's so hard, but we spoke about this before. It's probably so hard. You could probably do it in college, but there'll be people out there going, you could no way do this in the NFL.
I don't think you can.
Fair enough. If he was like a great wide receiver, but then a pretty good on the defensive side, you'd know where to go. But he's great on both. You just mentioned he come up with that play that pretty much sealed the game. But for me, I think it would be a wide receiver.
Okay.
I just think he's elite in the air. And if he focused on one thing, he'd just be so much better in that position. But hey, you never know. It might be a first for everything.
I've seen Richard Sherman come out and said he would be a lockdown and almost become one of the best DBs in the game straight away if he decided to become a cornerback.
That's big from Sherman.
That's huge. That's huge praise. You mentioned Alabama in there as well. Georgia, the big dogs. Can Colorado match it with them? Well, they're playing each other this week coming up. And we have a unique market from the Tab app. So available under today's offers as the Hoops and Hits podcast, same goal multi, we have Alabama to win against Georgia, Jalen Milroe to score a rushing touchdown in that game. Alabama famously beat Georgia in the final regular season game last season to knock them out of the playoffs. And Milroe has scored 6 rushing touchdowns in the last 3 games. So I like this play.
Yeah, I do too. Roll Tide, I think. They won 8. You like that? Yeah,
it just rolled off the tongue.
Can I tell you a quick funny story?
Yeah,
the only reason I know Roll Tide is because I went to the Rose Bowl. Ohio versus Alabama a few years back, and we're there with our mate, and he doesn't really know college and stuff, but he was getting into it. He brought all the gear, and
I love it.
He may have had, he had a good night.
Yep.
And people were yelling stuff out. He's like, "What do they yell out?" And we said, "Flow Tide." So, bro, he's running around yelling out "flow tide," and like people look at him going, "What's this guy saying?" So that's why we're off
They
the tongue.
could pick you Aussies from a mile away. I reckon.
Mate, we were just full kit, everything. But nah, it's going to be a huge game, and I think that's where it's going to be won. The two quarterbacks, Carson for Georgia, had a bit of an off game last week against Kentucky, and a big one for me. The team captain, Kate Radledge, he's out, and he's sort of seems like he's the glue. He's their captain in the middle there, but it's going to be a huge game either way. You said Milroe before. He's probably, if not the best at extending the play in college. And that's going to be one thing that Georgia, the Bulldogs, are going to have to stop. But I just think, having Tate out, not giving, Carson that enough time. Alabama are the best on the ground. Like they grind you into the ground, grind you in the ground, and that's what type of game I think it's going to be. So, yeah.
I love the change this year. So Washington coach DeBoers comes over, takes over from Saban. They've been renowned for running the ball at Alabama, but Milroe's throwing the ball around. It's fun to watch. It's a more high-powered offense, and they're fun to watch. We're all in Alabama, and I think that's great value from the tab, and you can only find that on the tab app as well. Specifically from the traders.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
How about the NFL, mate? Let's move on to the Cowboys' loss to the Ravens. So Dallas were outplayed in all facets, basically, by the Ravens for the majority of the game. There's a little bit of a scare at the end, but they hold on 28-25. What's your reaction on both of these teams? Because neither of these teams are blowing me away at the moment.
I just love it because the Cowboys are sucking. That's just one thing for me, being an Eagles fan. But it's interesting watching the Cowboys. Like we spoke about in the first ep about who they keeping and CD but yeah, they just that first three quarters they couldn't get together. They honestly, Dak was just their offensive line was not to be seen, and Baltimore's defensive, like they're okay, but they're not great. And then you just I don't know what it is with the Cowboys, but then the fourth quarter they fire. They just go bang, 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 and they nearly win. But then for Baltimore, this is what I thought would happen at the start of the year. King Henry ran for over 150. Lamar was probably his best this year, and yeah, it was a good game for Baltimore, but they still wouldn't be happy where they're at. But for the Cowboys, they lost 3 straight at home for the first time in a very long time. So
didn't know that.
Yeah, and I don't know about the Cowboys' defense. They lost a lot of players last year, and they just all seem like they're on the wrong page. But for me, it's coming to that stage now where the Cowboys, they need to start winning. This is what we always hear this about the Cowboys. I sort of get over talking about them, but I love it when they're under the pump. So yeah,
very very top heavy roster, right? So CD's been paid, Dak's been paid.
Correct.
They bring Zeke back on a bug, and their running game was really underrated a couple of years ago off the back of their strong offensive line. Both departments, the offensive line and the running game, are nowhere near the way they used to be. I'll tell you who's flying at the moment, or you want to get anything more on that?
All I was going to say is, I wonder what it is. Like, they'll go into training today or tomorrow. What is it those first 3 quarters? Like, what is it? Like, what is going on? But then all of a sudden we can fire and nearly win the game. Like, what was it? It was 22 points they scored in the last quarter. Like, that's not many teams can do that. Like,
they just ran out of time, didn't they? Really?
I honestly think, Cos, if maybe
couple
one
minutes,
more. Yeah, I reckon
minutes.
they're home, but they'll obviously sort that out, but hopefully not for the Eagles' sake.
I tell you who's not worrying about leads or blowing leads because they've led, or they haven't trailed. The Vikings have only trailed for 3 minutes and 26 seconds on the season so far. No one has seen this coming. This is a rival, my Green Bay Packers, and that comes on Instagram from Jack Robbins too, by the way. Minnesota improves to 3-0 with a huge win over the Texans. They made the Texans look really bad too, by the way. The Vikings have been one of the best teams in the league. They've won on the road against the Giants, defeated one of the NFC's best teams in the 49ers, and a lot of people had the Texans as a real true contender in the AFC. Sam Darnold is going that well. Our friends at the tab had Sam Darnold at $201 to win the MVP last month. That's crunched all the way into $26.
Yeah, that's huge. And I'll be honest, I was like that. I honestly thought the Cowboys were pretenders. Sorry, the Vikings. But they are no longer pretenders.
Still want to talk about the Cowboys?
Yeah, they're on my mind. I love it. But like Sam Darnold, he's been unbelievable. And the thing I love about it is Kevin O'Connell, he hasn't made it he hasn't said to Sam, look, we need you to come up with these huge plays. He's gone to his strengths, and that's what the Vikings have been doing. They've got some big plays in Jefferson down the field, but
they're missing Hockenson too. At
Hockenson,
the moment.
yeah,
he's a gun. He's their tight end. He's normally good for a couple of completions. My man Aaron Jones. He's been good. He's been good. They've got a little 1-2 punch. I tipped you up on Ty Chandler as a smoky.
Yep.
Got a good running game. They go to Justin Jefferson in big moments. They've got a great scheme, and they've got a really good defense. Brian Flores on that side of the ball is just giving all the quarterback fits at the moment.
We speak about Brian Flores. He was a part of the Patriots for a long time, and they got 15 sacks, and I haven't seen Stroud like that in a long time. He was pressured, but it wasn't just. It was all different types of pressure, and they're mixing up the way they go after him. And like as a quarterback, it's so hard sometimes. How do you know? Like the Vikings, for me, between attack and defense at the moment, are just flowing. They're helping each other out. They haven't got the greatest team. We talk about once again the Cowboys really top heavy. For the Vikings, I think they're the opposite. I really do. They help each other.
Complementary.
Really well.
Complementary
Exactly,
teamwork.
mate, yeah.
That's what you could call it.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
I'll tell you who went really well as well. So that's off the back of Sam Darnold, who actually spent some time at the Carolina Panthers. Let's get to the Carolina Panthers because Andy Dalton comes in and produces a feat that no one had done in 2024 until our man Joe Burrow did it today. He becomes the first quarterback this season to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's crazy to think that that's the first time that's happened 3 weeks in. But Andy Dalton, he's got us to our stalemate for this week.
Yes.
We've got people that have been messaging in. This is probably the most debated topic in the NFL at the moment. And producer Shabs has come up with this. We put out a poll. Is Bryce Young a bust? So our fans say, this is on Instagram as well, by the way, 62% say yes, 38% say no. On Twitter, 55%. I feel like Twitter are always more generous.
Yeah.
Instagram always feel like
Instagram don't care.
Yeah, they rip in. They're happy to rip in. Is Bryce Young a bust? Oh, man. 1 year, 2 games into his career, and you seen what Andy Dalton did with the exact same roster this week.
So for me, Hoz, when I look at Andy Dalton, he's 36. He's definitely at the back end of his career. He seems like he's a team first guy. So if I'm Bryce Young, I'm going in and saying, what did you do on the weekend? What did you do to get this offense going like that? Because I haven't been able. What is it? They don't trust you. You're not forming that sort of rapport with everyone in the team. Because as a quarterback, I feel everyone's got to like you or even love you because you're the guy. You're the leader.
You think there might be some?
Well, there's got to be. What is? How can you go from? We call him a bust, and I don't like calling him a bust yet. I just don't think he's a bust yet.
Yep.
But 319 yards that he threw for. It's not like he went okay. He went great. So I'd just be going in there. He was the thing is with Young, I just feel that he made a comment saying he's open to whatever comes, which means for me, from what I take from that is he's open to leave.
Kicking stones, you reckon?
Yeah, man, dig deep. Get in the trenches with your team because they're struggling too. It's not just you that's been poor. All of them have been poor. And I feel to get out of that, you need to do it together. And actually, interesting, Tom Brady said something that on a podcast that I found very interesting. So Young was obviously at Alabama and he was a star and everything was going great. But he says it's very different in college. Like if you go, you can pick and choose where you want to go. If you're a gun, you can say, I want to go to Bama or I want to go to Georgia. But Tom Brady said, the Alabama system don't necessarily think about making you a better player. It's about making the system a better system.
Making the program
better.
Yeah,
so
win games. You want to win from
and
Alabama.
How long have Alabama been on top for in Georgia? So I found that very interesting in players' growth.
Yeah, so the development of Bryce Young, right?
Absolutely. So he's probably thinking he's going well, killing it at Bama, as you would, mate.
Winning games, good defense, good run game.
You're on TV, you're killing it, you're flying, but really deep down, when it comes in the trenches, in the NFL, the hardest competition of it all, well, He's obviously not up to it at the moment. So
I thought I was killing and flying when I was on TV, mate, so I can understand
true.
that.
Under 20s, Toyota Cup. Yeah, so I don't know. It's a fair comment though, isn't it? Because it seems that's what's going on.
I'm going to say bust, but I've always thought Bryce Young was a bust. The one thing you said just before that will going in and asking Andy Dalton what he was doing out there. Andy Dalton can't help him grow. You talked about the trenches. He can't see over the trenches. He's too small. He's the smallest quarterback ever to go at number 1 pick. And he doesn't even have that thickness of a guy like Kyler Murray either. He's a very slender, small quarterback. And I had my doubts coming into the draft last year about him. And now those doubts are, I guess, have been proven right already. It's only 1 week of film we've seen from Andy Dalton. We've got some fan comments here.
What are you doing, Hoz? What are you doing with him? If you think he's a bust, what are you doing if you're Carolina?
I'd be trading. But I wouldn't have drafted him as well. So that could be a little bit biased. We've got some fan comments. This one's from Danielle Kalura from Instagram. Trade him before it's too late. Danielle, I agree with you. This one's from Les Stabs. It's hard to shine when your online can't stop a pass rush. That's what you were talking about. However, Andy Dalton proved that wrong. 300 yards, three touchdowns. And this one is from Marty Knows. His team hasn't helped him yet. So a couple of sympathisers for Bryce Young there at the end. But again, going off what Andy Dalton just did on the weekend, it's very hard to use that as an excuse right now. Yeah. We will see in the following week.
I find it fascinating. Like it's actually, when you think about it, it's crazy why he felt so like he could move in the pocket, but every time you say Young, he does. He feels congested. And I watched a little bit of their first, mate, he was getting swamped. So why aren't the O-line defending for him?
He's a bit gun-shy. He's a bit gun-shy at the moment for sure. All right, mate, we'll go through our fantasy times, and you know what that means. It's time for studs and duds. So let's get into it. Do you have any studs and duds from your fantasy team to get us kicked off?
Yeah, I'll say two studs. Lamar, 30 points, best game he's had for me. 14 carries of the ball. And we spoke about King Henry. Like, how do you stop that? You know, Lamar or dish it off to Henry. So I think their play action absolutely demolished.
That's only going to get better as the season goes on. It's only going to get better. And King Henry said that. He said, I'm still seeing how this O-line defends me. Like, so he's got to find his little slots, and I think he's only going to get better. But I went after him last week, Amari Cooper. Oh, nice.
Mate, he was good.
Did you make a trade for Amari?
Nah, I had him.
Oh, you had him.
I did mention he was, I can't remember if I exactly said it, but I think he was my dud.
He was your dud.
He was my dud. So he's back. The Browns still lost to the Giants, though. That's
the Browns, mate. They're awful.
They are awful. But you know what? I feel, I've got to be open and honest on this show. Jake Elliott.
Yep, you got a kicker. Your kicker went off.
Gave me nothing.
Oh, you got nothing.
0 points. Eagles kicker.
Yeah.
0 points. He missed one.
I've got the number 1 kicker in the game at the moment. I've got Aubrey from Dallas Cowboys. He's definitely a stud for me. Got some other big games. Malik Nabis went off. He scored twice. Your man Saquon from the Giants. He continues to thrive at Philly. He had a big game. A couple of duds. J.K. Dobbins started really well the first couple of weeks. He only goes for 44 yards and 15 carries. Josh Jacobs, he had 14 carries this week for 43 after a really big week last week. And Mark Andrews, what's doing with that at the moment? I am an Isaiah Likely owner in a couple of leagues, but he's not going off either. So with the run game of King Henry, you'd expect off the back of that, you might get some receptions to the tight ends, but not the case at the moment.
What is there something? There's got to be. I don't know. Just is it something medically? Because Mark Andrews was a go-to guy.
He had the hip drop last year in the playoffs, right at the end. So he's still, I think, getting back to full fitness, and also, I think they're running the ball so much more with, and when you're doing it so well, like they were doing at the start of their game, it wasn't required to throw the ball in this game. So I'm expecting bounce back from both Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely moving forward.
He literally only ran 4 routes. 4 routes, 28 points scored. Like, that's ridiculous because he had a lot more ball last year. But yeah, I wouldn't be panicking.
They're a roller coaster tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very up and down. All right, it's time to get to the pick 6, and we've got Cynthia Frelund's picks from last week. It's a rough one. We have the Bucks. They lost The Raiders somehow lost to the Panthers with the change to Andy Dalton. The Lions lost as well. The 49ers lost to a Rams team without their 2 star wide receivers out. The Bills get the win, and the Bengals lost to the Washington Commanders. So Cynthia, it's a rough start for Cynthia so far in the pick 6. And I'm not gonna give it to her too much because a lot of these you would have thought were locks.
Mate, it is. I said it to my mate the other day. How hard is it to punt on the NFL at the moment?
Oh,
Who in their wildest dreams are thinking Cincinnati are losing today at home after being 0-2 already?
I wonder what some of the tipping comps are like at the moment. I can't imagine teams are over 500. I can't. If people were picking over 500, they're going really well. We have another video from Cynthia for this week.
What's up, Grub and Horo, or Horo and Grub? Somebody's going to tell me which way to say this correctly. I'm in America. I think it flushes the other way up here. I'm not sure. Anyways, here's my pick 6 for this week. The first one, the Dallas Cowboys over the New York Giants. Number 2, the New York Jets over the Denver Broncos. Number 3, the Houston Texans over the Jacksonville Jags. Number 4, the San Francisco 49ers over the New England Patriots. Number 5, the Kansas City Chiefs over the LA Chargers. And number 6, the Brisbane Lions. I love Lions of all sorts, especially ones who avenge losses from last year over the Sydney Swans.
Wow. There we go. She's chucked in a little bit of AFL as well, normally American sports, but I believe Cynthia is a Lions fan. So there's the connection there with the Brisbane Lions against the Swans. Wow. But blood's up. We're in Sydney, right? We're on the Swannies.
I was going to say,
that's the one pick I can't agree with.
And she's not really giving us much on the multi. So come on, Cynthia.
It could be a good omen for Sydney.
Hopefully.
All right, so the Dallas Cowboys against the Giants. You like it? It's hard to pick, right?
Dallas at the moment, they'll beat the Giants at home.
I'm going Giants for an upset on that one.
I like it.
New York Jets versus the Broncos.
New York Jets.
They should get that done.
Yeah, yep.
Texans should beat the Jaguars. Jaguars have looked awful so far.
What about them?
You're expecting the 49ers to bounce back against the Patriots. In Kansas City, the refs will get this Kansas City Chiefs home against the LA Chargers.
Hey, Hoz, big game next week. Green Bay, Minnesota.
Ooh.
Huge.
I love that game.
Green Bay favourites.
We should get Jordan Love back too.
In Minnesota.
Malik Willis has been unreal so far. We deserve to be favourites in that one, Grub.
You deserve it.
We've got a good team at the moment. We've got a backup quarterback, and we've won the last 2 games. Jordan Love.
Those Vikings.
He was humming. You just worry about your own team, mate. This week coming up, we talked about, Cynthia mentioned Cowboys. She likes the Cowboys versus the Giants. We've got 2 picks from our post on Instagram. First one comes from Nicholas Karianis. CeeDee Lamb to score a touchdown. Tick. We like that.
Yep.
And therefore, CeeDee Lamb scoring. We're hoping the Cowboys are getting the victory because Samuel Argy is on the Cowboys. As always, we want to thank everyone who has joined us, not only watching this show, but joining in on the show, sending in comments, and you can continue to do that on all the socials. Grub on Instagram, ESPN AUNZ, TikTok, ESPN_Australia_NZ, and YouTube, ESPN AusNZ. Thank you. Another great show there, mate.
Great show, mate. You know what? Next week, let's send in some more Grub moments. I want to hear what people... And a bit of feedback. Feedback on what you think.
Let us know if you think Grub is the Grub or is he going too hard on some of the other Grubs.
Or have I gone soft?
See you next week.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website